So we're back with hopefully the final segment of today's, well, it was a seminar, and now it's just turned into a couple of videos afterwards, but you know what I'm saying. So here we are back inside Daz Studio with our figure posed, and here we have our model in Zbrush. And I've already exported, the last video ended, I said I was about to export my maps, which I did. And so now at the lowest subdivision level of our model, I'm going to export this. And I've actually already exported it once, but I'm going to do it again so you can see it. So I'll export the model, and what you're seeing right here shows all these polygroups that we made in the previous session. So now I'm going to import my model, and I found that the Modo preset works really well for importing things out of ZBrush. Now you might be asking yourself, well, there's GoZ. Why is he doing an import? And the reason for this is that GoZ does not retain polygroup data, whereas if I export an OBJ, it will. So there's an interesting thing, though, that exporting the OBJ can flip the UVs, which I actually forgot to fix. So if I look at this inside ZBrush right now and I turn the texture maps on, they're going to work fine. They're going to look good on it. There they are. But since I've exported those maps, I either need to flip the maps vertically or flip the UVs on the model before I save it out, because when ZBrush saves out an OBJ, it will flip them vertically for some reason. So I'm just going to kind of think that through ahead, kind of preemptively flip those. So of course now if I turn my map on, it's going to look janky because it's not matching. But that's only because they're flipped. So if I flip them vertically, you'll see it matches. So I'll just flip those. Let's export one more time now that we have our UVs corrected. And then we will import our rifle. Use the Modo preset, hit accept, and here we have the rifle imported. And I might actually want to smooth this just a tiny little bit, or I can go ahead and just apply subdivision in Daz Studio. Of course, the subdivision is going to make things get kind of bloopy. Okay, so we want to look at that. And this is another area where having those polygroups in place is a really handy thing. So with the rifle selected, I'm going to go into my geometry editor, and then you'll see here that we have all these face groups present. And as I arrow down that list, you'll see it highlights the polys in the model for each of those. Now there's a blanket setting, kind of a global setting on the mesh resolution that we could turn on that'll probably make the model look a little better, and that is switching the subdivision algorithm from cat mark to bilinear, and that does a pretty good job. But we can also have a finer control over our edges and over the hardness of edges. So let's take a look at that, and we'll go through our groups here. These groups are going to be really handy for a number of things. So let's go ahead and select some polys from this group. And looks like it missed a couple. That happens sometimes. So I'm going to make sure that those are all assigned to that group. Every once in a while you might have something kind of stray. There we go. So also having these polygon assignments is going to make it really easy for us to set up our materials in different material zones all over the model. So let's take a look at this poly group. We're going to right click and change our geometry selection from a polygon selection to an edge selection. And let's see, then we do, oh, it doesn't want to do that. Let's undo that real quick. Let's go back to just polygon selection. Oh. There we go, polygons. Okay, let's make sure those are all attached to that group so we can get back to it really easily. Might want to, no, that's fine. So now let's do, oh, I do not want to select that boundary like that. So let's just hide unselected polys for a moment. And then if I shrink that selection once, and then I invert the selection, then I should have my boundaries. Let's see if we can do that from a vertex selection as well. So we've selected all, then we reduce the selection once and invert it. And the idea here is to get ourselves working with the only the very edges of the group, which can be a little bit of a tricky selection to make. So let's go to wireframe for a moment. Yeah, let's take a lasso selection, see if that lets us. No, it's not going to let us get rid of any of those. So, and our drag selection does not seem to want to be working right now. Let's switch to a different tool and switch back. Sometimes that fixes that problem. Very strange. Do we get it back here? Oh, that's magical. Now, Daz Studio seems to have decided it's just going to be kind of finicky on us there. So let's go to something else. There we go. Let's go select something else for a moment. Now let's come back and see. Ah, now we have it back. That's better. So we want edge selection. Now we can paint over that. We should be able to use symmetry and paint. So what I'm doing is deselecting everything except my boundary edges. There's a rather misleading command in here called select boundary that you would think would just select the boundary, you know, the boundary elements to what you currently have selected, but it doesn't really work that way. So okay. Just a few more of these. And do like to have a wire overlay when I'm working with edges, so I know exactly what I'm looking for. Okay. Should be just about good. I really want that one to deselect, and there we go. Sometimes edges can be really, really odd in here. And then we can always make a few more selections as we need them. We have good edge loops on everything, so that will make all of this much, much easier. Okay, there's that. Okay, so the whole purpose for this, for what we're doing here, is we're about to set subdivision weight on these edges. So now if I set subdivision weight, these are all edges I want to be 100% hard. So we'll set that to 1. And now you'll see how those all tighten up. So now if I select connected to that ring, or that edge loop, let's set that one to something, I don't know, let's say 0.5. It's probably not enough to really tell, so let's do 0.8. So now that should be nearly a hard edge, but not quite. Okay. And then those, we want to do the same. There we go. So just like the creasing inside ZBrush, we can control a lot with our subdivision weight on edges inside the S. So there you can see we're getting a little more of a taper to some of the curves. Just all kinds of cool stuff that can happen with that. Those are set to 1. I know that I want, pretty sure I want everything going around this set to 1 right here. There we go. So now we've got nice hard edges in there. So now let's go back to faces, polys, and we will show all. And let's go back over to, let's go to edges. And let's select this loop. Yeah, I want these loops right here. And I want to harden those up like that. And I probably will just kick it back to the bilinear setting, but I wanted to use it as just sort of a quick way of showing some of what can be done with editing edges and edge subdivision weight inside here. Okay. So, and I think that's really pretty handy. So, but we're going to go ahead and stick with bilinear. Although now I'm just curious. Let's go back to cat mark for a second. And to vertices, and let's just select all of them. I'm curious about something now. You guys are going to see a little bit of experimentation here on my part. So let's just select all and set this to maybe 0.85. Interesting. I actually kind of like that better than bilinear, and that's a whole lot simpler than going through and trying to edit everything quite so granularly. That's actually a nice effect. I'm thinking we're gonna keep that. So let's select our rifle, and I want to go back to polygon selections now, and we're going to deselect all, clear selection, and at this point we need to create our surfaces. Okay, so let's just arrow down through. So this is going to be the stock frame. and then I'll hide it. And then once it's hidden, that makes it much easier to grab certain other things like this. So then that's going to be the actual stock. I think. Let's go to a wireframe and take a look at this. Okay. There we go. So let's see. Nope. Just a little bit of playing. Now, here's a neat little trick. Sometimes if you just select a polygon or two, then you can see the group that those correspond to over here. So I'm going to call that stock padding. And then we will hide it. Now let's see what this was part of. Okay. And if I hit Control F, it will frame up whatever polygons are selected. So I'm going to change out to a lasso selection mode and deselect this stuff here at the end. I want to add this into my stock frame. And then I'll just hide that. Okay, and now I'm grabbing these. And I'm going to call this muzzle cover top. Actually, just muzzle cover. There we go. So now we can hide that. And it's just this process that happens where we can go piece by piece. Okay, here we have the muzzle. So let's make sure that's all added there. Alright. And it looks like we've got a couple of strays, so we need to slide in here and grab those guys. Might be easier with a drag selection. Let's add those, hide them. Alright. Now let's walk back down through and see what else we've got. So I'm going to call this one side panels. And I'm about to get up into the area where the figure is at, and things are going to get a little difficult to see some elements. So I'm going to go through and just hide pretty much everything else in the scene for now. And that'll make this a lot easier to work with for the moment. If you're wondering why it keeps jumping off screen like that, for some reason when I go to pan, I'm using a Wacom, and when I go to pan, a lot of times when I let go, it shoots it off screen. I think there's some weird calibration problem between Daz Studio and a Wacom. I'm not sure what that is, but I hope they fix it at some point because it's kind of aggravating sometimes. So let's see, side panels, we're going to hide those. Now let's see, let's call this forward handle panels. Actually, I don't like that word handle. Let's call it forward grip. Okay. And then bet that leaves where this stuff can be selected. That's going to be the forward grip. So you end up with this kind of process of elimination that's kind of handy. There we go. And that's going to be the magazine. And for the uninitiated, it is not a clip. It is a magazine. Clip is a very different thing. It always amuses me. Alright, let's see. Let's call that scope area panels. And I'm going to add that one to scope area panels. Because we really don't need to make a polygroup or a surface out of the polygroups of each of these groups. So that's almost overkill at that point. So that's going to be, let's call that top casing. Uh-oh. It would appear that I just encountered a bug in Daz Studio, the one where it decides to make your mouse just go away. So I'm going to save this scene. So save as scene. And let's just call this rifle dev for now. And then if it doesn't give it back, nope, we're going to have to restart Daz Studio. When that happens, it just sucks and you have to restart it. Oh, and there's the crash report. Yeah, that's usually not far behind when that happens. Yes, yes, yes. So annoying when that happens. So let's go grab rifle dev and hopefully it didn't corrupt it. If it did, then this video is a waste. Sort of. It's still not a bad thing for people to see, you know, even screwed up stuff. So let's select our rifle. Now let's zoom it in. It looks like we might have some problems. My mesh resolution is still kind of screwy. It's like it didn't keep my edge settings, which is pretty lame. So here we are. Choo-choo-choo-choo. So let's see where those came from. Those came from here, and that's going to be our, let's call that trigger grip inset. Okay. And then this little guy right here should be the trigger. Yes, there we go. And looks like we got a couple more to select and add to that. There we go. So the groups don't always transfer over quite the way that you would think they should. So sometimes you have a little bit of editing to do, which we'll just do right here. Okay. And Looks like we need to show all polygons for a minute and just kind of see what's going on here. So I have a feeling we may have, yes, that is what I thought we did. Let's add that. Yeah, I'm going to have to clean up some of this just a little bit. There we go. Now let's just hide unselected. Let's invert that. And that will be trigger grip. Okay. So let's show all. And we will hide this selection. You can see, I think there's a few polygons that still show up from that, so we don't want those to be involved in that anymore. Okay. So now we hide the trigger grip. We hide the trigger. Okay. So let's grab these. And then we're going to add a few to this. This is going to be part of that trigger area. And if Daz Studio could just not screw my camera up for 5 minutes, that'd be great. There we go, popping off the screen again. But it's such a habit for me in every other program to navigate with my pen that reaching all the way up to the corner is just aggravating too. So it's one or the other. It's probably one of the biggest things that I want to see addressed in a future build of this program, because it just drives me nutty. See, there it goes again. I'll let go, and unless I move super, super slow, it just pops. And it's just very, very irritating. There it goes again. Pop, pop. Yep. Pop, pop, pop. It's so reproducible that it just drives me nuts. It's like, there it is. You know, I've gotten so I almost have an idea where it's going to fly to when I let go, and it just kind of pisses me off. So this is going to be, let's see, trigger grip handle. Okay. Looks like we have a few stray polys there that we want to grab for that. Do we? Do we? Yes. Okay. And let's zoom in on these guys. Add them. Now let's go through here and hide all the stuff that we have materials for so far and see what we have left. Probably not a whole lot. Okay. I'm going to grab all of that. Let's grab a few polys out of this. And then I'm going to invert that. And I'm going to call these main surfaces. Actually, I don't like that. We'll just call that gun chassis. That sounds better. And then we should have this little guy right here. So I'm going to grab all of that, and that's going to be my scope. And then I'm going to change my selection mode to drag selection. And just because, let's come out here and grab this stuff. We want to have the eyepiece. And then scope lens. Just being thorough. So now let's unhide or show all polys. Someone's Skyping me. So now let's go back to our texture shaded view. And we go over to our surfaces, and we'll now see we have all those guys listed. I think there's still a default matte that we need to get rid of because that has nothing assigned to it now. So let's remove that. Okay. And the next thing I'm going to do is run my iRay Uber-based script. So we convert all of that to iRay. And I'm also going to go ahead and save this as a prop, even though I'm going to be resaving it later. I'm going to go ahead and save this so that we have it there in case something goes south on us. So props, CG bytes, dark void, explorer units, and this is DVX sniper rifle. Okay. So, product name, dark void. And we'll save it. Okay. So now it's time to bring our textures on board. So let's select all of our materials here, and we'll go to base color. I'm going to browse, and I'm going to go to my library for this. Sniper rifle, runtime, textures, CG bytes, dark void. And there's our texture. So let's go ahead and kick this over to an iRay mode. And I'm probably going to want to use some kind of a decent render preset, which I have a pile of. So let's go into our library, go down to render presets, and there they are. That was scaring me for a minute there. That was scaring me. Let's just go to our showroom. Actually, that one's so bright that it kind of glares on me, and I don't really want to have to look at that. Let's do this in an urban sort of environment. That's a pretty decent lit area, so I'm just going to change that to active viewport. Now let's go into our surfaces, and we want to pull in our normal map. Which reminds me, as I do this, I did not convert those. Right now those are TIFFs, and I don't really think that I want to keep them as TIFFs. So, and I am going to keep the cat mark method of smoothing. I like that better for a lot of reasons. So I may regret it, but we're going to go with that. And I'm going to go back into my geometry editor to vertex, or not vertex, I want to go to edge selection, thank you. And I'm just going to expand that selection out through all of the lower part of the gun and set my subdivision weight to 0.8. And then I think I want to grab all this stuff here at the end. Because I want to tighten these up so that they flatten the end. Actually, let's just grab you. It's always tricky to do this when you don't have a wireframe view up. There we go. Now let's set those to 100%. Not at all what I wanted. That is interesting. Well, we can always edit that gun just a little bit. It looks like we might have some shrinkage going on, some relaxing going on in some of those polys. So we'll take a look at that here in just a moment. I kind of like keeping this softer method on the scope, though. So I do want to harden up much of the base here. Okay, so let's harden that up. Okay. And then we can, let's try to smooth this. Let's take this stuff down to 0, and that should smooth it out pretty well. Okay. So now let's play with these materials a little bit. On our surfaces. And let's see, on the eyepiece, let's see, I might want to make this a little larger here so I can read some of this stuff a little better. So let's go for some things that I know are going to be a certain kind of metal. Let's go with the stock frame, magazine, muzzle, scope, and let's do side panels. Okay, let's take all of these and make them very metal. And then I'm going to turn my diffuse roughness up a bit. And if I wanted, I could add a color over top just by turning up this diffuse overlay weight. But I'm not going to be using that right now. Let's turn glossy layered weight. Let's turn it up, but then turn our roughness up a bit so it's not quite so tight with the highlights. Now turn the reflectivity down. Actually, I think I want to turn that down. Yeah, let's just play around. This is all really trial and error type stuff anyway, so let's turn the top coat weight up. And reflectivity down and roughness up. And then our top coat bump is going to come from our normal map. Which we still need to convert these. So I'm going to go out here and convert these very quickly. So I'm going to open with, and I use Advanced Batch Image Converter. So that will allow me to just drag these in like this. And we will convert them. Okay. And let's sort, let's see, group by type. And there we go. I want a JPEG there. I'm just going to go ahead and change that on everything because I know that I want that all over. I'm going to go ahead and turn on a little bit of top coat weight for everything so that I can go ahead and shove the normal map that I want in there as well. So there's that. And then that. And then let's grab that. So now I can actually go delete those TIFF files, because TIFFs are huge and we don't need them. So TIFF and TIFF and goodbye. Okay, so now we have the maps that we need. Let's kind of bring down some of the sheen across the board. And we want to set that bump to normal map for the top coat. Okay. Let's turn the weight down on that so it's not so shiny. And I'm going to turn the reflectivity down, pretty much everything. And now I'm just going to go through and select the stuff that I want to be more reflective. So let's take our material selection tool and we'll just do it that way. That way we can just do it visually and see something highlighted. Let's turn on the reflectivity on those. Glossy weight can go up. And let's turn up the top coat weight. So now I'm selecting these parts that are sort of leathery. I'm going to turn that roughness really high on those. And I'm also going to give them kind of a brownish top coat color, just a tint. And let's do a little bit of diffuse overlay on those. Just a tiny, tiny amount. Just enough to sort of recolor what we've got, just a little bit. It's kind of handy being able to do that. Turn the roughness up on that. We want our glossy roughness pretty high. pretty happy with that. So let's save that. And I'm going to kick back over to ZBrush and save the work that I had there. And then I'm going to clear out my GoZ cache, close ZBrush. We're going to restart it when we send the gun back over to make a couple last-minute little edits. So I'm just going to select our rifle and send it over. And I think I probably sent that over subdivided, which we don't want to do. So yeah, I sent over a subdivided copy of that. We don't want to do that. So let's send it again. There we go. Now we have the real deal. So it looks like the muzzle is actually nice and flat there at the end. That's interesting. So it looks like the thing that we need to touch on here is going to be something we're going to do from inside the geometry editor again. So let's just select this stuff and convert selection to edges. Let's just set those to 1. That should harden that up. Yeah, that took care of it. All right. So now we can go into our scene, and I'm going to unhide everything. Although I'm going to go into texture shaded before I do that because iRay will bog down on me, and I don't feel like waiting around for that. So let's turn the character back on. Turn on all his clothing. Boy, that's cute. We're going to do an expand from selected so we can find his head and then turn on his glasses. There we go. So now let's select the rifle, and then we're going to change the rifle parent, and I'm going to parent that to his right hand. So right hand, parent in place. So now that it is parented, we save it. And now you'll see that it has smart parenting turned on. We hit accept, and we are good to go. And just for this pose, I think I might make a little morph for the bucket hat, just so people will be able to use this stuff all together like this. I like the idea of that. Let's take the bucket hat, send the whole thing over. Everything's going to go over to ZBrush. It'll show up momentarily. There we go. So now we should have everything here in ZBrush. So let's select the hat, and I'm just going to add a little morph onto the hat. That makes the hat just lay right over the gun like that. That amuses me. I think it's cool. Makes it kind of believable, and I like it when things interact in a scene. So there's something kind of cool about that to me. Alright, so I'm going to send that over as a morph, and we'll resave the hat. So I'm going to rebundle the hat. I don't know. Have to make a decision about how to share that morph, but we'll figure something out. So this is going to be drape for rifle 1, because I might do another one at some point. And I'm going to put this under a morph group called fur cloth. Okay. Then accept. Cloth. So there we can see our morph on there. And let's go pick out for ourselves another render setting. Let's turn on some iRay. Render presets. Come on, iRay. Alright, and let's do this in... I like the overcast beach one for this stuff for some reason. And then let's turn that mesh resolution up. There we go. That's what we want. Loop. No, stick with that one. I'm really just looking for a good shot here, you know. Let's pull it a little tighter. There we go. All right, let's throw a camera in here. I think we are just about ready to get some renders of this guy. That's pretty cool. Let's turn depth of field on. Let's push the f-stop. Push our focal distance. Turn that stupid headlamp off. There we go. Now let's see what we got. No, that's the stuff right there. That's what we want. That's prettiness. So let's make a duplicate of that camera, that exact setup. Now let's swing around and be prepared to get it from another angle. I think that's going to do us proud. There we go. Let's make another copy of that. Nice. Like that. Like that. Very, very cool. So there you have it. I'm going to save my file there. And we're going to save our rifle. I'm going to memorize that element so it comes in exactly as it is. And now we're going to save our rifle. And there you have it. Very cool. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I hope you pick up some neat tips and tricks from it. And we'll see you folks next week, hopefully at the live seminar. So till then, I'm Les from 6S1 Media. I'm the director of director of artist development. Speaking well is not a prerequisite for the job, okay? Director of artist development. Try saying that 3 times fast at CG Bytes. And thanks to the folks for CG Bytes at CG Bytes for putting these things together and this whole program and stuff, and try trying to get some interesting learning materials together for folks out there. So can't wait to see what you guys do with the stuff you pick up from these sessions. Until next time, we will catch you later.